I started here, I didn't know anything about mold making, didn't know anything about injection molding, but I had employees, co-workers who knew exactly that, and they taught me everything I know pretty much.
I've always been in manufacturing. My first lab gig ever was in plating.
It's a good entry-level job to start with little schooling, and then you can work your way up all the way to the top.
Conversations are completely different. You don't go into it with this show up and throw up mentality. What you're trying to do is solve a problem of theirs. You're looking to find out the pain points and figure out what is it exactly that you can touch on to build that trust, like we talked about last week, and to establish that you have a solution for it. You're going through the effort of talking to people, and you're going through the effort of trying to build your pipeline and all that stuff. And then what are you doing with all that data? You're putting it into a central system like CRM, and then it can help all your salespeople. It can help all your data. You can track all your stuff to it. Plus, you can use it as content distribution to be able to send out case studies, articles, videos, things like that to your strategic audience. CRM should be the lifeblood of your business. And a lot of times people will build out their pipeline, they got opportunities, and they just sit and wait. And I've had so many conversations with people individually, companies where the salespeople are waiting around for things to happen, and they're waiting around for deals to get done, and that just doesn't work. Anything can happen. I've been in situations back in 2008 when the market crashed and automotive took a dump, and I was in sales at a plastics company, and we lost 35% of our business overnight, and I was tasked to go and replace it. And that was difficult back in 2008. And so you never know what's going to happen. So you always have to keep feeding the top of this funnel and feeding this beast and building out your pipeline. Never assume that any deal is done until it's inked. What is up, guys? I'm Kyle Milan. It is Monday, December 13th, and we are live again with another show about industrial marketing. Are you struggling to pick the right marketing agency for your industrial or manufacturing company? Because in this episode, I'm going to cover the key areas and factors to consider before you do. So like always, I appreciate you guys joining in. For those that are watching live, whether you're watching this live, watching on a replay, listening to it on the podcast, or subscribe through YouTube, I appreciate all of you guys. If you could do me a favor, and if you are live, leave a comment in the section. Tell me where you're coming from. Tell me a question you have. As usual, per our show program, we get to the questions once we get through the content, but leave them in now, because every single show we're like about to wrap things up, and then the questions start sliding in. So if you can, leave them in the comments section now, and we'll shuffle through them. So once we come back from break, then we'll get right into it. So getting right into the beef of this content, from a marketing agency standpoint, back when I was in industrial sales and marketing in the plastics industry, for those of you who don't know, I spent about 16 years in industrial before I started this marketing agency, MFG Tribe. So about 10 of those years I was in sales and marketing, and I've worked with a lot of marketing agencies that were B2B. That's where this knowledge is coming from. And also the way that we do things at MFG Tribe. For the last 6 years, we've been helping industrial companies and manufacturing companies alike, whether it's a service or a product, dominate in their industries. And these are just things that I know that if you guys are looking to pick a new agency, whether you're considering us or whether you're considering somebody local or anybody in between, these are some key areas that you have to consider before you create that partnership. So the first thing we're going to talk about is your team. What is your team set up like? And contrary to most people's belief, industrial marketing teams at industrial companies and manufacturing companies are typically small. Sometimes as small as one person, which is usually just the head in charge of sales, is also in charge of marketing. I've talked to hundreds and thousands of companies over the last 6 years, and they're like, oh yeah, we're kind of small. We're a big company, but we're kind of small with marketing. I'm like, dude, you guys are on track. and on par with everybody else. Now, when you get into the multiple billions in revenue or close to $1 billion, then the teams get bigger. But what you first have to consider is, what is your team like? What type of resources do you have internally? If you have nobody, then that's a great starting point. You're going to rely heavily on your marketing agency. But if you don't want your marketing agency to take over everything, and you're just looking for them to do a couple of key aspects, you have to make them aware of, like, here's my resources. This is the team that I currently have. This is what we're currently doing. All of that stuff should get talked about from a strategy standpoint in the initial call with them, the initial discovery call, because you want to be transparent and say, look, I've already got somebody that does the web. I've already got a contract with somebody. I've already got somebody internally that does all my web and IT. Whatever it is that you have to look at your team and then determine, how do I pick a marketing agency from this? If you're a team of one and you don't really focus a ton on marketing, then you're going to need an agency with some depth to it. Sometimes it could work picking an agency that has one person or two people in it, but typically it won't. Usually you need somebody that has a team of 4, 6, 10, 12 people behind you and north of that to be able to handle all of the different aspects of your marketing. So start it off with your team. The next area we're going to go into is going to be the budget. How should you set your budget? There isn't any sort of math behind it when it comes to using a 0.5% of your revenue should be spent on marketing. I never do things like that. We just look at it from a standpoint of, when we talk to companies about their budget, look, if you're a $10 million company, a $20 million company, and you're trying to increase your revenue by 10 or 20%, and the goal of that and the driver of that is going to be by using a marketing agency to fuel that outbound and inbound growth, then you cannot expect to pay that agency $1,500 to $3,000 a month. No agency on the planet can get you multiple millions of dollars worth of revenue if you spend $30,000 a year. Because if they can, then they would be charging a lot more for it, because they understand that that's important to you. So you have to understand, like, with your budget, I would say at a minimum, you need to be comfortable spending, if you're an industrial and manufacturing, you need to be comfortable spending at least $5,000 a month if you want to see the top end and top funnel growth of your revenue increasing and new opportunities come in. Can you spend less? Yes. Is it sustainable? Is it going to be a consistent basis where new opportunities are coming in at a couple $1,000s a month? It is not. You can do a singular aspect of your marketing for $1,000 or $2,000 a month. If you just want somebody to focus on your SEO, sure, you can do that for $1,000 a month. But if you're turning to an agency saying, look, I have a couple people on my team, or I have nobody on my team, I want you guys to do everything for me. I want you to be my partner. Expect to at least spend $5,000 a month. So for those of you that cannot spend $5,000 a month, you need to look at, what resources do I have to kind of circumvent the issues that I'm going to run into with not having the financial resources to come through. And so the budget is extremely important. That's one of the first questions that we ask. So if you get on a call with us and you're like, hey, I want to talk to Kyle, or I want to talk to Greta, who's my business development manager, and talk about strategy and see what should I do differently and what should I plan for 2022, there's basically 3 things that we're looking for to come out of that conversation. Number 1 is, what are you currently doing and what are your resources? So what are you currently doing with your marketing? What type of resources do you have internally to take care of some of these things? The second question that we're going to ask you is, what are you looking to achieve with these results? If you tell me you're looking for 20% growth in your $100 million a year company, that's going to require a lot of activity. That's going to require a bigger budget. But if you're like, hey, look, I'm just looking for like 5% growth, 10% growth, I'm 10 million a year in revenue, then you're talking like $1 million at 10% growth, like that you can do for a lesser budget than somebody that's looking for 20 or $40 million. And the third thing we're going to ask is, what is your budget? There's been times where I've talked to people and they're like, whoa, how could you even, like, you're asking me that question on the first conversation? And I'm like, yeah, I am. And the reason why is because I've talked to tons of people that have very low budget expectations, that are like, hey, $1,000 a month should be able to get me where I want to go. And it's just not going to happen. There are agencies that can do that, but not MFG Tribe, because of the way that we do things. It's a complete package, right? So you have to look at your budget. The next area you're going to look at is the experience of the agency that you're talking to. Have they worked in industrial before? Have they worked with manufacturing companies? What type of traction do they have with it? Are they just a B2B agency that says, yeah, we're a B2B marketing agency, comma that also works with industrial companies, you have to really look into that because this is a different world. You guys know it. Like the whole reason why I started MFG Tribe was because I had worked with B2B agencies like 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. There wasn't anybody that was focusing industrial. Even the bigger B2B agencies they barely even touched industrial. And so I'm constantly teaching them everything that they need to know to exhaustion, to where at the point I'm like, I could just do this myself. I could just hire a team to do it myself. Right. And so you can hire a team for a few $100,000 a year to handle everything, or you can partner with an agency that costs you maybe 125,000 a year that already has a team that could do it. But I was looking at their experience, and it was very difficult to find somebody that knew what it is that we did in the role that I was in. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to start an industrial marketing agency because I'm only going to work with these people because this is a niche that I can serve. It excites me. I get up every day. I'm like, it's cool. We get to work with industrial companies, whether it's automation, robotics, plastics, metals, corrugated products, gears, motors, pumps, everything in between. I love that stuff. And so you have to look at their experience. Now, if you're going after comparing a B2B agency that's going to say, I'm going to quote you $3,000 a month, and an industrial agency that's like, I'm going to quote you $65 or $85 or $9,500 a month, there's a difference because they know what it's going to take to get the results. A lot of these B2B agencies are just kind of learning. That's why they have a lot built up in the front of their timeline of onboarding and going through the learning process to try and understand, how do you sell to engineers and purchasing and operations people? They don't even know. So they're going through a learning process, or maybe they worked with somebody kind of like yours before, but they don't have a ton of experience in it. So it's going to take them a lot of time to do that. And like anybody who follows my content knows that you have to take time out of the equation, because in industrial, everything is about timing. You call somebody today, they say no, something happens at the plant, something happens with their product, something happens with whatever it is, and you call them tomorrow and they're like, yep, actually, I do need that. Actually, I'm looking to source all this business. Actually, I do want to expand. I do need equipment, whatever. I need more machines. I need material handling system, whatever it is. That changes on a minute basis at all companies. It can change in the blink of an eye. So it's all about timing, and you cannot afford to wait while you teach somebody what they need to know or what you're hoping that they should know. So definitely look at their experience. I feel like it doesn't go, the subject of experience doesn't get beat into people's heads enough. The issue is like you're in whatever city you're in. You're in Chicago, New York, Florida. You're in Texas. You're in California, wherever it is that you are, and you're like, I want somebody local. You don't need somebody local. Okay. COVID happened, and now you guys are pretty much used to doing video calls with everybody. So nobody needs to be local. You need to work with somebody that has the experience and the expertise in that niche, because they're going to get you results quicker than anybody that says, yes, I've worked with a couple companies. Yes, we can do it for you. That goes into the next point, the strategy. So from a strategy standpoint, your strategy working with an industrial marketing agency is going to be different than your strategy working with a B2B marketing agency. So after you look at their experience, then hopefully you've narrowed it down. Now you're working with a company that has a specific strategy, that has tried and true methods that work. That's how we are here. We only work with industrial companies. So when I say, hey, you know what, we should start doing this service. When we first got into video and started doing video marketing, we make over 400 videos a year for all of our clients. It wasn't like, hey, let's just try this out and see if it works. It was, we tested it. It worked. We then expanded it across multiple clients that were interested. That worked. Then we bring in new clients. We talk about that aspect of marketing. It works even better. And then we've got all of these data points. We've got over a dozen companies that are all doing this strategy. And then we can see, is it starting to fall off? Is this way that we're executing on it not working as well? Are we starting to see something with this customer that's marketing to medical companies or aerospace companies? And we should look at that data and say, this isn't working as effective. Let's make a micro tweak and then apply that across the board to everybody else that's going into those markets. That's really where the strategy comes into place, right? Like, we only have experience in this. I don't know how to market a consumer product, right? I could guess, but what I do know how to market is industrial manufacturing companies. I've been in your shoes doing it at a company, and then broke out and started the agency, which I had no idea what I was doing when I started the agency, because I've never owned an agency before. So you really have to look at the strategy from a standpoint of, with everything going away from direct sales and more about branding and content creation, all that stuff, the strategy should match that. Anybody that says, yeah, we want to focus on trade shows, they're stuck in the old ways. Anybody that's not telling you only to focus on LinkedIn is stuck in the old ways. That's the only social platform that you should care about. Anybody that is not telling you to create content as much as physically possible is not in tune with the strategy that works. So we create over 400 videos a year. We create over 300 articles a year. It's all about written word and spoken word. That's all that matters at the end of the day. Now, how you distribute that and put that out there, that depends. Is it just on your website? Is it on YouTube? Are you running paid ads with it? All of that stuff with the strategy, that can depend on your budget. It could depend on what specific service or product you're selling is. But that should all get taken in consideration. Do not focus on areas that are going to waste you money. Now, I'm not saying trade shows aren't worth money, but excessive trade shows are not worth the money. You're spending $100,000 a year on trade shows. You can do way more bang for that buck going direct with your marketing on a strategic outbound approach using content. The next point we're going to get into is going to be the timeline. So the timeline, like I said, everything's about timing, but how long does it take to get things going? So I have experience obviously with MFG Tribe and the way that we do things. I have experience working with other B2B agencies, and I've got data showing, when we talk to new people, when we get a new customer, I'm like, hey, so how was it with that other agency? How do they do things? And then they just tell us some information. So what I've seen is that beginning 1 to 3 months, most other companies, even the industrial marketing companies, are going through an onboarding or learning phase. And if it's a company that doesn't know your market very well, then they're learning. If it's a company that is industrial and they're doing that, then all that they're doing is building in a buffer to increase revenue for themselves, because it should not take anybody 90 days to learn how to market your business, right? If they do it for other people, it should be very quick. Whenever we send out proposals, I have one of the sheets that says project timeline, and it breaks down the first 8 weeks. What are we doing in the first 8 weeks? Weeks 1 and 2 is onboarding, getting the information, getting the data, presentations, all the collateral, access to all the different points, website, social, Google Analytics, the whole G Drive suite. That's the first 1 to 2 weeks. By week 3, we're already posting on social. By week 4, the content calendar is already created with topics based on research and what we feel would be best to write about, and the video topics as well. That's done by week 4. By week 5 and 6, the first article is done and published and shared out there. Everything's about speed. You have to do things quickly. Hold your agency accountable and say, dude, I don't want to wait 8, 9, 12 weeks. My boss is not going to let me wait 3 months before, the agency finally came up and actually created something. It has to be done within the first 4 weeks. Some sort of thing should be happening. They should be executing on some part of the strategy within the first 4 weeks. And that's really what's most important. Time is wasted, and everything's about time and money, and they all go hand in hand. So you have to focus on, I don't want to miss opportunities. We need to get this rolling as fast as possible. So what can we do to support you? If they send over a proposal and they're like, hey, we're going to learn about your business for the first quarter, I would say throw those people out. You want things to happen quickly. The next area is going to be communication. How are they going to communicate with you? How are they going to give you this information? The way that we do things is we have something called Teamwork Projects. Teamwork Projects is a cloud-based project management system. All of our customers have access to a project. All of our employees are on those projects to communicate. We do not email. Everything goes through Teamwork Projects. All approvals for graphics, videos, everything's done through a centralized system. Now, is that one more system for you to log into? Yes, it is. But you don't have to worry about CCing people or find that email or set up a folder system in your Outlook structure or anything like that. How is the potential agency that you're working with or the agency that you're currently working with communicating information? Is it easy? I found that Teamwork Projects works best for us. All of our clients have access to everything inside of it. When we have a branded graphic or a video or an article to approve, we post it in there as a file. They get to see the file. They get to write comments to it, changes that they want to do, if they want to upload different revisions, things like that. All that's done in one system. It's complete tracking across the board. Everybody gets notified in your team, and that's important. You don't want to be chasing down emails or asking people if they saw an email or you can't find it. You really want to try and have some sort of integrated system. And I'm not talking a chat system. So we have chat internally. This is not chat. This is an entire project management system with everything in that. Communication should not, time should not be wasted on communicating. It should be effective, efficient, and you have to make sure that whoever it is that you're working with has an effective and efficient way to communicate information back to you and for you to give information to them. The next area we're going to look at is performance. Are they performing? What is your performance criteria? Are you trying to expand into a market? Are you trying to grow brand growth? How do you quantify that? Are you looking at total number of leads coming in? And how are you measuring that on a monthly basis? So far too often I hear, yeah, we've got this agency that we're going to be leaving, and we're talking to new agencies like MFG Tribe. And I say, okay, well, what we do is we have a 60-minute call at the end of each month to review the previous month's performance. And we look at analytics and data and social and videos and articles and all that stuff. And we basically sit down for an hour, go through the data, show what worked, what didn't, what areas need to be changed, what don't, what's coming through the pipeline, any issues, concerns, questions that they have. It's all done in a 60-minute call with us to review that performance, so that way we're not at the end of the year being like, yeah, remember what happened in month 3? Yeah, that didn't work out well for us. So you have to look at the performance of it. How are you going to measure it and quantify it? And far too often people are like, yeah, we get a spreadsheet, or we get some graphs, some data, some PDFs on a monthly basis. I don't know where they are. They just kind of send them over, but we don't really review it together. I mean, you have to be reviewing the performance. You have to make sure that what it is that they're doing on your behalf is working. If it's not working, have that conversation at the end of the month. If something needs to change, have that conversation. Whenever it is, certainly you could bring it up ahead of time if something's coming up. But when you're looking at the data, see, is this working? Yes or no? Is the agency going to make adjustments? Yes or no? And then what's the plan moving forward? But you always have to grade people based on their performance. So that's pretty much all that I have for picking the right marketing agency. Hopefully you guys got some value out of it. For right now, we're going to take a quick break, go to the comments, answer any questions that you guys have, and we'll be back in about 90 seconds. All right, guys, and we are back, and we've got a couple questions that came through while I was going through my rant. Let's see if we can throw them on the screen. So Mitch asked, how much value should I put in a marketing agency that has worked with companies like our own over agencies that haven't? I would say you should put a lot of value in it if they are getting the results that they're supposed to be getting. So anybody can say, hey, look, I only focus on your industry. I've worked with tons of companies, but look at their current client roster if they can share it, because a lot of times you can't. There's certain clients that we have that are willing to do testimonials and talk to people about the programs that we put in place. And a lot of them are like, dude, I don't want anybody to know that we're using you guys because we don't want competition or anybody else to know. But I feel like you should put a lot of value in it. Now, that's not to say that some agency can't get into this market. It just comes down to time. Like, it's going to be a lot easier, depending on what type of vertical you're in, for you not have to explain machining services or robotics integration services, or the fact that you're trying to go after these types of companies, or here's how engineering people like to be talked to. Like, at the end of the day, when you market only industrial, you don't have to worry about multiple personas, right? They're either in engineering, purchasing, operations, product management, maybe, but that's pretty much it. And for the most part, the personas are pretty similar without going into the diagrams where you break out, who's a leader and who's not. For the most part, there's things that work with people in purchasing. There's things that work in operations and engineering. Some of them are similar. Some of them are completely different. But the agency should understand that it's going to save you a ton of time. So I would put a ton more value in it if they actually get the results. I've met industrial marketing agencies out there that are a team of one, and they have done good work for the couple of clients that they have. But when they try and expand and they're using a bunch of hired help, and they don't have systems and processes and procedures and all that stuff in place, that's where they could fall on their face. I mean, I could tell you that 5 years ago, when we didn't have the systems and all the stuff that we have now, when we were going through growth, it was controlled, but it also at the same time wasn't controlled, right? Because people heard, hey, this company's doing these great things, and they just start jumping into us and trying to do business with us. And I was like, wait a minute, like I don't want to fall on our face. So we have to be strategic about how we do grow. So yes, I would say I'd put a lot of value in that. Next question comes from Joel. Do you consider engineering design consulting firms under the umbrella of industrial marketing agency? Yes. So I think what you're asking is, would I consider you guys industrial? Absolutely. I mean, industrial, when we were first going down the path of after the agency was started, I was like, what are we trying to focus on from an SEO standpoint? First we were doing B2B, and things like that. But then I was like, it's just manufacturing marketing, industrial marketing. There's not huge search terms for it or search volume behind it, but that's all that we do. And what does that encompass? Pretty much anything that is technical. Not talking AI and software and things like that, but if you sell something, a service or a product that is industrial or manufacturing in nature, it uses engineering terminology, it's bioengineering, anything that's technical, that needs a certain level of mechanical or electrical aptitude from an engineering standpoint, that's what we mess with. We have 2 degreed engineers on staff, 1 mechanical, 1 chemical, that write all of our content for our clients. And everything's done in their voice and their name, and it's their content that we create originally for them, and we don't reuse it. But yeah, I mean, industrial, I use that term kind of vaguely, because it is all encompassing of things that are industrial. But yeah, design engineering companies, software companies that do like metal analysis and flow of plastics and things like that, that are supporting industrial companies with their technology or software. Yes, that I would consider falls into the same category. If you have a design consulting firm, then if you're marketing to industrial people and manufacturing people, then yes, that's industrial marketing. Next question. What kind of red flags in a marketing firm might make you pass them up, or what other green flags would draw your attention? So I'd say the first red flag would be they haven't worked in your space. And when I say your space, I don't mean literally your vertical or niche, but they haven't worked in industrial. They have minimum experience working in industrial. That's one red flag. The second red flag is going to be the price. If it's too good to be true, then it is too good to be true. If the price is cheap, you're not going to get any results. You will get activity, and there's a difference. Do you want somebody that's going to be executing little things for you, or do you want somebody that's going to be driving the brand and bringing new opportunities in? If they're cheap, then it's probably not going to get you what you're expecting. Now, if you're going into it expecting only minimal things, then you can spend minimal money. But those are some red flags. And then also look at the size of the company. Everybody that starts an agency, everybody that starts a company always starts with at least 1, maybe 2 people if they have a partner, which I 100% support working with companies like that if your expectations are in line. Right now, if they're saying they're going to give you everything under the sun and they're going to execute on it, they're going to do it quickly, but they don't have a team built up or processes established or systems in place, then you should not expect them actually to be good on their word. But those are some red flags. Some green flags would be, have you ever worked with this type of company before? Yep, we worked with these 3 companies. Can you send me contact information for them? Yes, I can for this one. The other 2 don't want to be contacted. You can look at their testimonials. You can look at companies that they've worked with. You can look at, like when we send a proposal, almost every single proposal we do has content at the core of it. We're creating articles and videos, right? Sometimes some clients want a lot of videos up front. Sometimes they don't, and they just want articles. But either way, the second page of our strategy of how we're going to execute on that content, I say, here's like 15 to 20 examples of articles that we've written with links to those companies' websites and the article on their website. And we wrote that. Same thing with videos. Oh, you want to see some of our example? We've got a demo reel that we can show you, or here's 15 videos that we've created that are on our hit list to show you some different styles. But those types of things where they can show you the actual work. I mean, graphs and charts and stuff like that. Like we took this company up to here and we blew them up with growth, and we took them from 3,000 metric or 3,000 impressions a month on their website to 12,000. Okay, cool. We actually have a client that we got 8 weeks ago, that they had a company that was boosting up their metrics, that was bringing in all the traffic, but in the end, they didn't sell any more of what it is that they're selling. So that doesn't work. It's a vanity metric. So not just looking at charts and graphs and showing like we grew this company, but actual raw, what is the deliverable, and then talking to the company, like how is it working with them? How is the communication? How is performance? What type of growth did you accomplish to those people? Those are some things that you really want to dig down in and see. And if they've got the performance to back it up, then it should be easy to get. And I think that that's it for the questions right now. We'll give it another minute or so. If you guys have any last minute questions, throw them in. As a reminder, from a value standpoint, we give all this content away for free. We don't advertise for it. We don't ask you guys for anything in return. It's not blocked by emails, things like that. Hopefully you're subscribed to my YouTube channel. Hopefully you follow the content that I post on LinkedIn every day. But if you can do me a favor and just, if there's somebody that that needs to hear this information, whether we're talking about marketing on Mondays or sales engineering and technical sales on Wednesdays, please just share this with them, send it out to people. Everything that we do is based on word of mouth, and we just want to get as much content out there as possible to help you guys out. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me if you guys pick MFG Tribe as your agency. All that we want you to do is go into whatever relationship that is that you're going into or currently have, and really audit it to get the most out of it. Because too many times the industrial area just gets forgotten about, and then just gets taken advantage of people that think that they know what they're doing, but at the end of the day, really don't. Nick's got another question. How many points of contact representatives should my company have with their firm, and vice versa? So most agencies have an account manager or project manager, and that's your main point of contact. But you should expect to talk to at least 2 to 3 people on some sort of consistent, regular basis. So for our clients, they get assigned a project manager. That's their point of contact. The project manager then execute on everything that we need to do. We bring in our content marketing manager. In those initial conversations, we bring in our director of creative to talk about video and things like that. That's where we bring those people in to kind of be the direct person. It's not just everything funneling through a project manager. So I would expect to talk to a few people at that company, one main person on a consistent, regular basis, and then other people as the project evolves and new things get put into place. On the flip side of it, we've got some clients that we just talk to one person, and we've got other clients that we talk to 5 or 6. And we've had clients that we have whole teams of 15 to 20 that we talk to on a regular basis in the past. What usually happens is the more people that are involved, the slower things tend to get, right? Like if I send you something for approval and you've got to review it with your boss, and it's just 2 people reviewing it or 3 people reviewing it, then we can get feedback and do another revision, or get feedback and then approve it right away a lot faster than if you have to go to a team of 6, 8, 10, 12, 15 people and everybody throws their opinion in. Then it's a whole long drawn out process. So from our standpoint, we need a main point of contact. Typically though, it's usually like 1 to 3 people. And I think that is it for the questions. So guys, as always, Mondays is about marketing. Wednesdays is about sales. We will be posting the event for Wednesday's show either later today or tomorrow. If you're in sales, be sure to tune into that. As always, leave your comments, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow the stuff that I'm doing on LinkedIn, and just look to see how we're doing it. There's a reason behind it because it just works and it'll work for your industry. So as always, I appreciate you guys tuning in, and we will see you on the next one.